Ladies and gentlemen. Hi. Hi, everybody. I got a great show for you tonight. I've done some planning, so knock on wood. The internet doesn't spiral because every time it seems like I plan my streams, they do something to the internet. And by they, it could be my bad planning. It could also be, a group of people that runs YouTube. But and then the times the internet is the best is usually when I just go on a drinking tear. Today, I'm just going to highlight what we're going to talk about, and then if I miss any of these topics, please let me know. So Sam Tripoli does a podcast called Tinfoil Hat, and he did some concerned trolling about me yesterday, like a real big thing about it. And people have said, oh, don't bring attention to it. He's just trying to get more listeners. Guys, I recently downloaded Mein Kampf. It's like, check out the sources. I'm always very uncomfortable with people that are like, don't read it, don't watch it, don't read it, don't watch it. I want my people to be able to see whatever the hell I'm talking about. And if someone's interesting and can lead value to life, watch it. I trust that the people in my life and the people that like me understand right, wrong, and can come to their own conclusions. Be wary of people that don't let you watch anything. I'm all about primary source documents. That's the one thing I learned as a history major that I am very grateful I went to college for is primary source documents versus secondary source documents. Now there's like fifth source documents. Like BuzzFeed is like a rewrite of a rewrite of a rewrite on acid. Satan meets death becomes journalism. I like real video from back in the day where you don't see someone's interpretation, you just see what it is. So we're going to talk about what it means to be a man. That's the overriding thing. Because when someone like Sam Tripoli says he's concerned about me, I'd like to talk about our lives and our differences and what I believe it means to be a man and why people actually will say these things. And they always want to have private conversations with me, but never public. I'm going to talk about a bunch of different men and specifically how I feel about it. Because I'll do jokes. Like I recently found a Joe Rogan headshot that I thought was pretty funny from back in the day. This is Joe Rogan when he first started doing comedy. Okay, for those of you just listening, why did they laugh on iTunes? It's a midget monkey with a little sword dressed like Napoleon. It's hysterically funny. Okay, so I do stuff like that, and people are like, what's the beef with you and Rogan? Or what's the beef about? So I'm going to do a list of people in my life, and I'm going to tell you how I feel about them and why. Because I don't like gossiping. And if you can ask Coddington or DeLev or Nimmer or people in my life, like my friends that I spend a lot of time with, I always underplay the horror of people. I vastly underplay my upbringing, any victim-y things that have happened to me. People that have crossed me, I will call them out, but I leave out like the horror shame stuff. Unless someone's actively attacking children or something like that, I'm actually pretty non-slanderous. I usually try and find a funny theme and just do that, but I'm going to explain how I feel about a list of people. And that way, if you ever want to know, this is where you can find it. I'm going to talk about women and why they need to be protected. I'm going to talk about how I feel about Hitler. I'm going to talk about how I feel about the Jews. because I want it like us, like just in one place. Because I do jokes and I say contradictory things. Because I've been confusing a lot of Nazis lately. And, like on Twitter, it's at Owen Comedies run by Delev. And, there'll be some Nazis being like, he's finally calling out the Jew. He's like, he gets it. And Delev is like, this is run by an Israeli, by the way. And they're just confused because I am a vocal and fearless critic of a lot of Jews. But I also support the existence of Israel and my friends. And I will explain to you without a shadow of a doubt how that makes logical sense. I will also talk about how I feel about Syria, Saudi Arabia, gay people, abortion, the psyop that is slavery and the psyop that is the Holocaust. We'll get into that. The best psyops are things that actually happened, by the way. And I'll talk about how the narrative has used these psychological tools to control people. And oddly, the victims are the people themselves. Like the Holocaust narrative hurts Jews. And I will explain that. The slavery narrative hurts black people. It creates something called survivor's guilt, and they have to relive a trauma from generations ago that they wouldn't have had to live in. And it causes real trauma in them and self-hatred. And I don't think a lot of people understand that because of this Hitler, Holocaust. People think that the Jews have this shield where you can't criticize them. And a lot of the bad, powerful ones use that. And that's the whole reason they do this Hitler, Holocaust thing. But when like Jews that work at a store, that live in a one-bedroom apartment, that are trying to figure out if they want kids or a dog, and, they don't benefit from that. In fact, it creates a real issue in the culture. And I'm going to compare them to the Armenians, because they had a genocide that no one even knows about, and how that creates a different thing. And then I'm going to be talking some smack about some Hollywood people. So just to give you guys, I was going to say a sense of balance, but that invokes Jordan Peterson nonsense. A good way to show hate the sin, love the sinner. Hate the institution, love the artist. I'm going to show you one of the most beautiful people on the planet who's a very accomplished actress who's still in Hollywood, and she has the heart of a champion. And so I want to show you how a good person with good values, and when I say good, I mean knows she's broken, knows the world's broken, knows those are the people that can actually be good. And it's Christine Ebersol. She played my mother on Sullivan and Son, and she sang a rendition of Amazing Grace for the firefighters right after 9/11. I'm going to play you this video. It's one of the most beautiful things you've ever seen, and it got her pretty much blackballed from Hollywood for about 5 years. People called her a truther and a nut and all this stuff. She was right, and she's beautiful. And so I want to show you that, and I want to show you how someone who can have Tony Awards and be in movies and play Amadeus's lover and in the movie Amadeus, she's one of the most accomplished artists there is. And I'll compare her to like a Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep has no actual talent, but so much power. And Christine Ebersol has so much love and talent, but not as much power. She's respected to all hell. She's the type of woman that can make fun of the super powerful gays, and they laugh because she's right and she's talented and she's tall. All right, let's get into this. This is going to be a fun one. Don't make us cry, okay? There's no way you won't cry when you listen to this rendition. And just to not keep you guys in suspense, I just want to quickly talk about how I feel about Steven Crowder because of the Blaze TV thing and the fact I'm not writing for him anymore. I've been getting texts, emails, all this stuff like, hey, some people want to know if they should attack him on my behalf or is he all right? I'm just going to tell you this. I attribute Steven Crowder for me finding Jesus Christ again. And for those of you that are Christian, understand the bond that gives you to someone and the insane gratitude I will have for him for the rest of my life. Um, I believed in God as a child, and then I was adrift, as many of us were, in the agnosticism of life. And I would say sometimes I'd be like, "Oh, thank God," but I could never say Jesus Christ. I always felt stupid because there's so much propaganda that makes you think that people that thank Jesus Christ or our Lord or stuff like that, they turn them into like rednecks and like idiots. And at first I was like, "Oh no, I can say Jesus Christ." And they're like, people could in my life are just like, "Just thank Jesus." And I'm like, "Thank God." And I'm like, "Why can't I say his name? Like, why do I have this program in me?" Steven Crowder is a comedian. He's roughly my age. He's a great guy. We spent a lot of time together. And to see someone that I related to so much say a prayer before eating at a fast food restaurant and unapologetically talking about Christ led me literally to salvation. So if you think like Glenn Beck and shit is going to come between my admiration for that guy, there's a good chance we never work together again, me and Crowder. Crowder is in a different world than me. He has a lot of stresses and burdens and responsibilities and stuff that I'll never have. I designed my life to not have that because I faced all that in Hollywood. Networks, employees, sponsorships, brands. He has influence, 3.5 million YouTube subscribers. He has an obligation to himself and his character to spread right-wing conservative ideals in America. And some of that will come at an expense. And that is, dudes like me that'll just call out the moon landing and shit like that are a bit of a liability. Me calling out Jordan Peterson. Peterson has this massive reach, and Crowder is not power hungry. He's not money hungry. He is a true blue Christian. But like he has to factor in things like influence and keeping the flame alive and stuff like that. And a guy like me doesn't fit well with that. And especially when you bring in a Glenn Beck character and then more sponsorships and drama and CRTV, there is no beef. And he faces health issues. I love his father. I love his mother. I love his wife. I've slept in his home. I've breaking bread with these people. If I'm like critical of like a Jordan Peterson episode or something, that in no way is me on the road to dissing Crowder or any of that stuff. He has a burden on his back, and he made me a better person. And I had gratitude for Joe Rogan just for standing up to Carlos Mencia for way too long than I should have. Imagine the gratitude I have for a human being to bring me back to Jesus. So I hope that kind of explains that. But I feel very differently about Ben Shapiro. And I feel like Dennis Prager is kind of in the middle. So we're going to talk about that. Of course, we're also going to talk about Hitler. Who was Hitler? And what's up with these Nazis? Because I like Nazis more than leftists. They're both completely wrong. But I'll explain. There's a self-hatred of leftism, and there's a Satanism of Nazism. And I'll show you a character from a series that will show you exactly what Hitler was all about. And if you're arguing with a Nazi, and here's why I know Ben Shapiro is utterly full of shit. Because he's like, I'm the #1 Jew attacked by Nazis. And it's like, they're always saying that I should burn in ovens and we're going to burn you in the ovens. He's never met an actual Hitler admirer. They don't think the Holocaust happened. So they don't threaten you with being burned in an oven. They're like, why was the door wooden with a gas chamber? That's bullshit. Those were work camps. You have to understand, people that are on board like an icon, they don't enjoy being evil. They dismiss the evil. And because the Holocaust has been used, the Holocaust did happen. Hitler hated Jews. But it's been used to control people to such a level that it's easy to criticize and think there's conspiracies. And there probably is in some level, I'm sure. But if you really want to talk to a Nazi and you really want to show the critique of Hitler that actually makes sense, let's just start with this part. You talk about what they did to the Slavs and what they were planning on doing in Russia. Hitler was not a nationalist. Hitler was not a Christian. Hitler was brave in war, for sure. but it was about just brutal masculinity and power, and it's the bad masculinity. It's jihadi masculinity. And we're going to talk a lot about what it means to be a man. Before I even get into Sam Tripoli, you're going to have to wait, Sam. You sit your ass down and you're going to learn something about Adolf Hitler real quick. Watch this speech, and this may get us. It's all right if you guys are talking a lot about the mustache. You know, I used to be blind, but now I see. Mustaches garner respect from men. If you have a mustache, you have to be over 30. It helps if you're a dad and you can't drive a van. Other than that, because anyone can have a beard. I respect beards. Masculinity keeps your face warm. You know, you're too busy crushing to shave. But homeless people can also have beards. This says, I get it, but I also clean up a little bit. And my wife thinks it's kind of sexy. So I'm going to keep it for a little bit. I don't think I can fully commit to it because people do treat me like I'm a police officer a lot. Like someone at Starbucks would say, like, sir. They'd be like, yes, sir. I'm like, listen, I'm just one of you guys. I used to not have a stash. All right. So this may get the stream taken down. It is all good. I want to use the best possible examples as I can to make my point. This is a guy named Khal Drogo. And this is a scene from, I think, the first or second season of Game of Thrones. He is as close to a Hitler archetype as I can muster. And it's very similar to how I feel about toppling dictators in the Middle East. And this will also help explain why feminists, quote unquote, who call men toxic all the time, like Islam. These are a group of people that don't think they should drive and they need 8 witnesses to a rape, right? Women who feel unsafe like powerful men. If they feel unsafe, like there is a lot of women that have been turned on to a degree where they start having relations with themselves to this scene. In this scene, he's bragging about raping people, right? This character of Khaleesi is being raped by her abusive brother. She feels unsafe in this. She's a vulnerable person, just like Germany was pre-Hitler, post-World War I, the Weimar Republic. All right, see, this is what people neglect to talk about with old mean Mr. Mustache Adolf Hitler. Hitler didn't create World War II. Hitler didn't create the Holocaust. Hitler was what Germany needed at that time because Germany was broken to a degree. This is why I work so hard to try and get people to have families. You know, Hitler didn't have a family, right? And focus on our communities and our values and stuff, because the scariest part of the Nazis is it made logical sense. Okay, when the German mark was absolutely destroyed, which will happen to the dollar, it's not if, it's when. The old story is that you would need a wheelbarrow to buy bread because all the money was so worthless. You would need a wheelbarrow to buy bread. So think about how many people were starving to death. No one thinks about that. If you need a wheel, does anyone here have so much money that you can fit it in a wheelbarrow? I'm doing pretty well these days. I'm not wheelbarrow wealthy. So people that wealthy with a wheelbarrow of money can only get bread. What do you think middle class people, working class people, poor people, they're dying. And they're being shamed for World War I when it was without question not exclusively Germany's fault. It was, when you look at the causes of World War I, you could spend your life trying to figure the mess out. But the Treaty of Versailles was both punitive, but they didn't enforce it well. And so you got a guy like Hitler, who's very similar to Drago. And Germany is very similar to Khaleesi. This guy is evil as fuck. Listen to this speech, right? This isn't nationalism. This is imperialism. And this is that power caliphate shit that turns a good world into hell. So if your woman feels safe and loved, she doesn't like guys like this. She thinks they're creepy and weird and a threat to her life. Vulnerable women, this is why the left loves single moms, broken families, women having abortions. You know the shit that does to a woman's psyche? because broken women want power. And so they try to make American men hate themselves. Men in general hate themselves, take on the burdens of the elites. You know, Jews have the burdens of the Rothschilds and the banks and all this shit and the media whores. And they just have to deal with it. They have to deal with what England did with the Balfour Declaration and how they just kind of bailed without figuring it out and how they just there's people on the ground having to deal with that every day that did not make the money that you think they did. And so that's why evil likes broken. And that's why, and I'll get to Sam Tripoli soon enough, why people are concerned about me, because I'm currently not evil and I'm not broken. I mean, I'm broken in the human sense, but my life is stable and full of love and I'm preparing for the future. See, this is the thing. This crazy imperial war bullshit that this dude and Hitler did, that's not masculinity. That's a sickness. Masculinity is making walls and barriers and having water and knowing how to shoot a gun. And when predators come, you kill the predators. It's not going out and like torturing a cat, you know? And for those people that have went through periods of their life when they've had sex with a lot of people, it's very comparable to that. Real masculinity isn't being with a ton of women. It's being with one woman and building with her. And I'll tell stories about that. I'll tell some pretty vulnerable stories from my past about that's a big misnomer. This isn't masculinity. This is damage, what I'm about to show you. And it's just like with Hitler. It's just like with caliphates. All right, so watch this. I will also pledge a gift. I will give him iron share. It's not his to give. That that his mother, father sat upon. I will give him 7 kingdoms, not his to give. I, Drogo, will do this. I will take my Khaleesi west to where the world ends. Ride the wooden horses across the salt water. Like no cow has ever done before. I will kill the men in iron suits and tear down their stone houses. I will rape their women and their children. I will take as slaves and bring their broken gods back to Dothrak. This I vow. I, Drogo, son of Barbo, gay name, I swear before the mother of mountains and the stars, as the stars look down and witness all right, so that's crazy evil, right? He's talking about raping women and turning children into slaves, and she's getting turned on. There's women watching that at home getting turned on. They're like, legend. That isn't love. That isn't masculinity. A real man doesn't vow to bring power based on force after he rapes and enslaves children and women. That's how you really talk about the real Adolf Hitler. It's not about the Jewish thing. That's been so twisted and messed with and all that stuff, and it's been used for so much control and weird. Talk about the Slavs, talk about Ukraine, talk about Russia, talk about how Adolf Hitler was saying that we will kill them all and spread our people. That's imperialism, dude. It's no good shit. That's not a hero. But when you break a woman, like that woman was being raped by her brother, right? And so she's facing a situation where that guy is the best guy for her. And that's the thing that we all have to understand, right? Because when you're being raped by your brother, when that animal, I wonder if Owen knows it's Jason Momoa. Yeah, of course I do. But that's beside the point. That's a character that sick fuck was playing. So anyway, Khal Drogo looks at his woman and is like, and he pours molten gold all over her brother's head, and it burns his flesh right off. And her assistant or sidekick or whatever is like, "Don't look, Khaleesi." And she's like, "I want to look," because she hates what her brother did to her, and she wants an animal to take them all out. That was Germany in 1925. That was Germany in 1930. That's most of America right now. And it's not in the financially desperate time that Germany was, but I'm a student of history. When people start wiping their ass with money and no one's representing them, you know, you got Nancy Pelosi out in Hawaii bitching that Trump can't talk. It gets to the point where people look to power. Women especially. Men are more likely to be loyal and tribal because women have more on the line. Women historically would get raped by any conquering man. So they look for protection. That's why evil loves fucking with women. Because women can either be the root of all like creation of life and home and family and everything beautiful in your life, or it's the mechanism to destroy a civilization. You get women broken, you get women defeminized, you get women will take safety over freedom. And if you sacrifice freedom for safety, you end up with nothing. And that's true. Anybody that's really loved a woman and really understands what women are deeply understands that. And my wife is beaming. You want to see what our dinner tonight? Check this out, and then we'll continue. This is going to be a fun one. Hey, look, Joe Rogan. That's a picture of Joe Rogan. We'll get to the Shah of Iran. Let me get this going. I hope you guys are enjoying this. Hit the like button. I set up subscriptions to this channel. I don't know what it does yet. Delef figured that out. But we'll do something cool with it. I always keep my stuff for free because I don't want to exclude anybody. And except for my specials, but I put free specials on YouTube. And I also just always want to make the financial backing of this channel always by choice, and it's only if you have extra cash. And if you don't, save it, build your family, because a broken America helps no one, or the world. I mean, a lot of you guys are facing this all over the world right now. As the here we go. So this is my dinner today.
Bob, tell me about the food we got going on here.
Well, Walter wanted to get the spiked melon in the grocery store, so I just Googled a good recipe for it. And since he likes steak, we got some locally butchered steak that we just got fresh today, and then a shaved asparagus and carrot raw salad. And then that's the spiked melon, because I was trying to be really artsy.
That looks unbelievable. I can't wait to eat it.
Look, I put Walter's little steak in some of it.
Are you excited?
Yes.
For the food?
Yes.
What part are you looking forward to the most?
Cheese.
The steak?
He said cheese, which I'm
Cheese?
not. You're making ready cheese tonight.
Okay. What about the spiked melon? Does it look like Max D?
Yes.
Max D's got spikes.
All right, so the secret to my success with having such a loving, warm family, protect the woman, let the woman feel safe. The woman will make children good people. The man protects, serves, fights, stays the path, supports the nation, supports the family. You know, I'm the one who starts the prayers at dinner, because women... some women will disagree with this. Women that have faced real tragedy in their life or real elation, like when you give birth or someone dies, you connect to God. But like, women are so naturally connected to God because of their bodies and their cycles and their ability to literally create, that men need scripture and ideas and verbal stuff way more than women do, because we have one cycle. It lasts 80 years. It starts with our first pube and ends when our dick dies, and we don't make life. We support it and protect it. So that's all this is. And when me and Amy first met, we were pretty broken people, man. Do you think she was making local beef and like shaving asparagus with our beautiful child? We were like blacking out and yelling at each other in a parking lot. It's not like I did luck out. I feel grateful as hell that I met Amy. Amy feels grateful she married me. But like, this is from following the path, you know? And so when people say they're concerned about me, I'm like, I'm living a life that I couldn't have imagined. Amy said that to me today, because like, all human beings go through feelings of being ungrateful or feelings of being overwhelmed, especially mothers with young kids, right? And so if she's in a car and there's a lot of screaming and stuff, Today she said, I saw some of the errands I had to run as like adventures. And I thought about how grateful I was. And I made sure I walked to the post office to really just feel it, just to be like, we're walking outside in this beautiful day. That requires effort. That doesn't just come. You know, this whole thing of like fat shaming and all this stuff. It's like when you see those chiseled dudes, unless they're like a certain type of black, that comes from like discipline and exercise and all that stuff. It's like, and people are like, oh, it must be nice. When people say that about my comedy, it's like, oh, you're naturally gifted at piano and comedy. It's like, I have failed so much on stage and I've played this thing for so many countless hours that you wouldn't even want to understand it because it might make you not value my talents as much. And it's the same with like a good family. You got to like put in work. Men have to protect and serve. That way, Amy would look at that character and be like, what a psycho. He could hurt Walter. He could hurt me. He could kill my husband. I hate that guy. Single Amy at 22? She'd probably be like, look at that piece of ass. I love and hate YouTube. Well, it's all just roads. It's like loving or hating a road. That's why it's like, I understand when people get mad at Twitter for like banning me and all this stuff. It only hurts them in the long run and everything's broken. So you just have to like figure out how to assemble your system. Like imagine if I didn't use any unethical systems out of Silicon Valley, no PayPal, no YouTube, no anything. Like I can't do anything. None of you would know who I was. All right, I'll get to, yeah, like Eric Nimmer's. Nimmer here? Did Nimmer just say something? He's as chiseled as a human can be, and I swear it's just because of that black shit. It's just because he's black. I'm going to now, we're going to start the critiques. Before the critiques, we are going to see something truly beautiful. And to set the stage, Hollywood people aren't allowed to do what she's about to do. She faced pain over this decision. She went, like she knows people. She knows people who were in 9/11. She is a true artist and a true human. And I was with her every day. She played my mother for 3 years on the sitcom Sullivan and Son. And she understands the evil of Hollywood. She still works in Hollywood because God bless her, because I don't want the world to be denied of her talents. I'm not that talented at acting. I'm real talented at comedy, observations, piano, and building fences. You see how at the end there when I said building fences, it was funny? See? Good, real good at comedy. I'm not a really like a great actor. I can play natural. I can play myself and read lines. But like Christine Ebersole is a genius at acting. It would be a shame if she denied the world her skills by leaving Hollywood. But here's the thing. She also completely understands Hollywood. She's probably watching right now. We're still real tight. And after 9/11, she was willing to question the narrative and to support the firefighters that people were quickly bailing on. And without makeup, without the right microphones, without costumes, she gets up and talks in front of a group of people and then starts singing. And I highly, highly recommend you YouTube Christine Ebersole 9/11. Listen to her whole talk. I'm just going to show you a little bit of it and then the song. But if you're interested in this, please watch it because this woman survived this. You know, this was like calling out the trans kid thing for me. This got her in a spot. And then she's watching, you know, the Meryl Streeps of the world that are like, Harvey Weinstein is God. And everyone's like, you're so fucking talented. But she kept her soul, dude. She's like, she'll write me stuff where I'm blown away at her insights and her intact soul navigating this world of deception. You know, she's tall. I'm a height supremacist. Everyone knows that about me. I'm a white enthusiast. I'm not a white supremacist. I'm a white enthusiast. Like, I'm a big fan. But I am a height supremacist. So someone that's tall gets it. All right, so just watch this. I'm going to make sure the audio is okay. And then we will just, you know, keep going from there. I'm going to make sure I got it up. Man, I love this woman. And so, yeah, when I'm trying to show this also because I know I can sound negative, but that's because as a man, I kill predators. I call out snakes. I mend holes to keep people safe. And I know that a lot of times I don't wallow in the beauty of life and the heroes of life sometimes because I'm busy taking out snakes. So I thought it was important tonight because I'm about to dismantle Sam Tripoli, dismantle Joe Rogan, dismantle Ben Shapiro. So before we go on a killing spree, let's see someone beautiful do something beautiful. And this was a self-sacrifice.
There's no cars in the bagpipes.
Oh, God, I love this woman.
Are playing Amazing Grace, and there's the firefighter's truck with the empty casket. And his sister walked by me, and she looked at me and she said, she just mouthed the words, "Thank you." And I remember looking at my husband saying, I'm not afraid anymore. I don't want to run away. I'm here among the living. And I'm so grateful for everyone in this room that's not afraid of who you are, because that's really what a spiritual warrior is. We're not afraid of who we are. We're not afraid of the truth. And I just want to thank you all for being here, and I'm so grateful that I can be a part of this.
By the way, isn't it crazy how actors are applauded for lying, but when one tells the truth, they get humiliated? When you look at the comments, it's like, I love her movies, I love her on Broadway, but she's a truther, like, whack job. They basically made her wear a crown of thorns. Just shame. Watch this voice in this moment. This is impromptu. This is not a play. This is real fucking life.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. 'Twas blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, we have already come. 'Twas grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. Though we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. 'Twas blind, but now I see. God bless you all.
Have you guys ever seen a Christian sing Amazing Grace like before? Like a true believer singing Amazing Grace is like something you've never seen before. She was humiliated for what she did there by Hollywood. She played my mother on a sitcom for 3 years, for those of you just joining us. And I want to show beauty and bravery and God and love before I take down the snakes. Because I realize that I don't always do that. I mean, there's no way you didn't watch that and feel something. Even if you're an atheist, even if you're it's like, how do you watch that? I was blind and now I see. That was at a 9/11 event, right after 9/11. And she started talking about the dead firefighters and about finding the truth. And then she sang Amazing Grace. And everyone started singing along and they didn't even know why they were doing it. Meanwhile, Meryl Streep spews garbage that Harvey Weinstein is God and that America shouldn't have borders. And that it's like, and she's given golden statues. This shit is biblical as fuck. I'm so grateful to have seen the things I've seen in my life because I've always been honest. But a lot of my presumptions, my cornerstones and my foundation in my life were wrong for a long time. And from those wrong thoughts, even in my lack of deception, because that was always part of my comedy and my likability, because I could say crazy shit and people always like me for it because they can tell I'm just not a liar. But I was wrong. And that's why it's really important to be patient with people and to only have people in your life that might be wrong, but they're not lying. When I was a child, I had experiences with my brother studied college in England for a year, and he met these two Saudis, Fahad and Abdul. And they came to our house for a summer. And these guys were Saudi Arabians, Muslims, considered fairly wealthy. Like they had like 30 camels or whatever. And when I was a kid, I had a loom, and I made this thing that I never really knew what it was for. It was just cloth. And then I found out I didn't even know that Muslims prayed on a little mat. So I gave it to Fahad. He was this gentle little guy, and he was very appreciative. And he didn't even pray that much, and he was very nice and loved America and just full of genuine. So like I witnessed in my life, those people go from that to what we see now. That was way before 9/11. That was before all this shit. I knew what a Saudi wealthy guy, his vibe in my home. Like that is, I would hate Muslims potentially if I didn't see that. Because Islam is a religion of submission. Islam literally means to submit. I can make an argument why Christianity is the true faith. Even on a secular, I can make a secular argument. Buddhism is about escapism. It's emotional heroin. Islam is about a government structure. Christianity is about truth and has nothing to do with governing you. Muhammad was a warlord on a flying horse who had a 9-year-old wife. Show me Jesus saying any of that. Buddhism is about being a rich kid in the woods, sitting silently and detaching and not wanting everything because all your shit's paid for. People that can pretend they don't want anything, it's because they don't need anything that's provided for them. You've never seen hunger in the streets. It's like a fat Buddhist. How are you fat, big fat fuck? Anyway, so I want to show you that about Christine. So that's why I'm against the wars in the Middle East. And that's one thing I can't stand about Ben Shapiro. When we topple a dictator, as fucked up as a lot of these areas are, Saddam Hussein was a vile. I'm glad he's dead. I think he's a fucking sick man. All his sons, Iraq was fucked. But look at it now. They went from being like almost like the non-practicing Catholic types where it's like, oh yeah, I go to Easter. Thanks for the prayer rug, little kid. I don't really pray too much. I got a bunch of camels. To this Wahhabism shit. That comes when you take out their ability to have leaders. I'm not blaming America. Like, I'm glad that we freed areas and we set the tone, and I'm so close to so many military people. Is one of the reasons I don't think we should be fighting in Syria. This is my rule. You can be pro-war in Syria if you fight. Like, Dolev is my friend who I trust as much as anybody. Well, not like my wife and stuff, but like zero Jew greed. In fact, when we first met through the Bears, she said, I remember she was like helping with stuff. And I'm like, I can't pay you. I have no money. She goes, I just want to be a part of something good. That will always be in my head. And I've been making money this past month, so I just sent her like $500 and she felt uncomfortable. And she lives in like a 1-bedroom house and like works all the time. How's that play on your Jew stereotypes? See what I'm saying? This is why that demographic Khal Drago rage is not masculinity. And you can't call out the real Jew problem if you're saying death to Jews. And I hope that makes sense because like our future depends on these concepts sinking into people. Where it's like, I hate Islam. I don't hate Abdul. I don't hate Fahad. Right now they might be crazy pieces of shit. But who knows if their area became like Khaleesi. And Khaleesi wants Khal Drago. And I'm not blaming American military on all this shit at all. I'm saying learn from our mistakes. I'm glad we have a presence in the Middle East with the oil and wars and all this shit. I'm glad Israel exists. It was shady as fuck how they got Israel. I don't like how much money we give Israel at all. But I want an Israel. How can I hate a country when I want my own nation for bears? How great would it be if we got an Israel somewhere? Like we find a piece of land and we get our own nation. Isn't that like the drive? So how do you hate that? You know, when you know how many treaties were broken by the American government, how do you look at Israel and say, but you can't? This is the problem I have with Ben Shapiro. This is the problem I have with Dennis Prager. Rules for thee, not for me. The thing that got me going about Israel, I've never even thought Israel was a problem on any level until like the last month. They get walls that we paid for and we don't get walls. That is an illuminating fact. And how many of our own representatives have no problem building a wall between Israel and Egypt because they're our allies? I'm not a military person. So when someone says there's a military alliance and it's very valuable, I'm just like, all good. I'm not in your world. God bless. Thanks for serving. But the wall between Egypt and Israel is for economic migrants. It's not about Hamas. And we don't get a wall, but they do. That's deception and that's fraud. And you can criticize the Rothschilds, the international bankers, the heads of Hollywood. You can criticize what so many Jews are doing to the world to subvert it and turn it into shit. The porn industry, a lot of the shit that goes in your food. You know, the New York Times is owned by one Jewish family that's this big that hates our elected president. But masculinity is not Khal Drago. It's not burn it all. I will rape their women and slave their children. That's not being a man. Being a man is defending your own. And when you look at a really cool Israeli man like Avi, my buddy Avi Yamini, I had him on the podcast, right? Dudes like that. Tommy Robinson out of England. Fuck England. but I respect the fuck out of Tommy Robinson for loving England. Farrakhan says the craziest shit. He thinks white people were made in a laboratory by an insane scientist. But at least he doesn't hate himself. So fucking, I'll take Farrakhan over Don Lemon all day because self-hatred comes from people doing horrifying shit. I'll take tribal leaders that could potentially be an enemy to me or not all day, every day over the self-hatred of the hollow man, the Satanist, the Sam Tripoli, the Joe Rogan. Those guys are not men. And so that is something that we need to talk about, because you have to be able to criticize the media. You have to be able to criticize Ben Shapiro, who says rules for thee, not for me. He's all about open borders here and the browning of America and how America is of many come one, or whatever the fuck he's talking about. But not in Israel, of course not. No, we're going to flood them with Egyptians. How would he feel about that? And you can't say oppression when you're a tribe that's over 5,000 years old that owns most of the fucking sports franchises. That doesn't fly with me. And that doesn't mean I hate Jews. And this is a concept that people, it will set you free when you see it. When you can say, let's stop giving money to Israel. Why are we fighting in Syria? Is there proof that Iran has nukes? I'm not going to fight your wars unless you fight. My boy Eric Nimmer fought in Afghanistan. If he thinks we should go to Syria, I respect the fuck out of that opinion, because his black ass is going to have to go there. And this isn't those immutable characteristic horrible arguments where it's like, if you're not a woman, you can't comment on abortion. No. The service in military allows you to talk about war. Ben Shapiro is not tall enough to ride in the teacups at the circus. And he, back in the day, wrote about how he was cool with killing civilians in war. He's like, yeah, they're all fuck them all, And he had the nerve to call Ron Paul an anti-Semite because he wants to get out of these wars. I don't believe in an American empire. I believe in America. I believe that men, and this is why Gillette and all this shit, there's a big thing happening here. Emasculate the men. Do not let the men protect the women, the children, the borders. Those women will now go towards power. The state. It's even worse than the Muslims. The state. They turned Justin Trudeau into a sex symbol to make single moms get horny. Do you understand how sick that is? So my problem with Ben Shapiro is he makes this claim that he's a victim. He's like, I'm attacked by the alt-right and all these Nazi trolls, and they're telling me they're going to burn me in ovens and shit. Real Nazis don't think there were ovens. That isn't even true. That's like 40-year-old virgin when that guy was like, oh, I felt a tit. It was like a sandbag. He's never met someone who admires Hitler. I have. Listen, they're wrong, and I'm hoping that what I'm saying is helping them get out of the imperial force over truth mindset. But when you're traumatized or you feel unsafe, and a lot of us bears have been through hell as children, or at least understand evil on some level, you have two paths. You become all about DMT and yoga and everything's subjective and abortion and nothing matters and it's whatever you want. It's about pleasure. This life is about, or you become like fire and fucking brimstone. I'm no victim. I will fuck all you up, right? They're both wrong, but one's less wrong. And this is going to be a controversial thing I'm saying right now, but the Stalin is more evil than Hitler. Hitler was a traumatized, deeply disturbed man who witnessed how much power, just the pure ability to take someone's life, how much it took from him in his life and his nation. By the way, what he's admiring is Satanism. It's evil. This all the logic of all of it makes sense. Right now, so many people are confused, I guarantee it, where they're like, well, he calls out the Jew, but he supports the existence of Israel. Like, what? It's like, I promise it makes sense. Stefan Molyneux has this concept of the non-aggression principle, which I don't think is possible in government. And I don't think there's ever going to be people without a government. And Molyneux's argument, and I love Molyneux and respect Molyneux, he's brilliant and he's not lying, Whether you agree with him or not, he's suffered for his truth. The truth, but it's his perspective on truth. The argument is, yeah, people said that about slavery. And my argument is, slavery's not over. This is Satan's world, man. Libya, Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton had Omar Gaddafi bayoneted in his asshole to death. They cackled and laughed. That was the richest country in Africa. They were getting off the World Bank Jew shit and doing gold-backed money. They had women's rights in Africa. They murdered him because he was going against the banks. Now people are like, well, he's going against the Jew now. I don't get it. He just offended the Jew. You can't go demographic empire rage and be at all. I'm not rooting for you. I'm not rooting for Hitler or Khal Drago. The argument with Hitler is not about Jews. It's about the Slavs and it's about Ukraine. It's about Russia. How can you look up to a man? And don't get me wrong, I understand why people that are vulnerable and hated and starving look to power to protect them. Just like Khaleesi, just like abused kids, you say, you'll protect me. That's why abused girls go into porn and end up dating pimps. Because it's like, that nigga will kill a nigga. I love that nigga because I got raped by my daddy. Okay, that all makes sense. It's all evil, right? So they were going to just kill Slavs, Ukrainians. Ukrainians were coming at the Nazis as liberators because Stalin was ice cold. Stalin wasn't about revenge. He wasn't about making his enemies pay. That's why I originally apologized about the Rogan thing, and we'll get to that, is because I felt I was liking it too much. That's why I talk about his height and shit like that. When I go at people and I feel pleasure, that's the start of sickness. And that's why Jesus Christ will save your soul, literally. That's not a metaphor. You have to listen to what that man told us. It's like when you start liking killing the snakes and you don't just see it as a duty, that's the door to hell. And so Hitler and the people that loved him, I'm not talking about the German army had a lot of conflicted people and a lot of innocent death that were just following orders. But the people that loved him were like, go Hitler, kill them all. Kill them all. And don't think the bannings are anything like that. Because bannings is about self-protection. People are coming in. You're a Nazi. You should die. It's ban. Snarky, ban. That means you can't come into my space, which is masculinity. Saying, I'm going to go rape your wife, that's a snake. Saying, I'm going to keep coming at you and making you feel pain every day, unless you're trying to teach, protect, or serve, you're a snake. And so if you're really debating a Nazi, and a lot of them can be good people. This sounds crazy to some people, but it's true. A lot of them felt damage and pain and fear, and they want strength to support them. And we're in this world that condemns all white people and all men all the time. To think of one guy being like, being white kicks ass. There's an appeal to people that are in pain and to people that don't feel safe at all. But to really take down an icon like Adolf Hitler, it's not about the Jewish narrative, because that has so many wizard protections around it. You know, why was there wooden doors, blah, blah, blah. It's like there's no proof. You know, there's no proof he even ordered it. I mean, there's a lot of proof he despised Jews and what he considered were weaker races. The argument you cannot look up to, because there are good people who are Nazis, and that, I know it blows your mind. You can't look up to a protector who goes into Ukraine, goes into Belarus, goes into these places, and they come to him as a liberator. They came to the German army like, you're going to save us from Stalin, we're starving. And they just start killing all of them because they see them as subhuman. They see them as cockroaches. It's one thing if you believe that Jews in your society are destroying morality and they overthrew World War I and all this, and you overreact. I'm trying to be a little funny with this heavy material, but like, when your plan is the extermination of farmers, I don't give a fuck how much shit you face as your kid. You look me in the eye and you defend that man. You can't. It's one thing if you say, well, the banks were coming into Germany, the Weimar Republic, the mark was tanked, people were starving, they needed it someone to stand up to the fucking imperialists and the Treaty of Versailles. It's like, what about Ukraine? What about the Slavs? It's the same shit with the moon landing. That's why the flat earth thing is still confusing me, because I haven't found it yet. The moon landing, they destroyed their tapes. No country followed. And it's the only time in history that technology has been destroyed and went in reverse. Don't get into the Van Allen belt. Don't get into like Shadows and Kubrick. Those are all red herrings. Why would you destroy all the evidence that you did the greatest thing that's ever happened? Well, I mean, government program. Okay. Why has no country wanted to go? Well, there's nothing up there. You want to re-listen to a Kennedy speech? You want to re-listen to the era and talk about how that was the defining moment of human history? And people die going up Mount Everest every fucking day, and there's nothing up there, and everyone's done it. If you climb Everest, there's bodies littered because it's too dangerous to take them down. So you just see dead bodies everywhere, and people still do it. And as John F. Kennedy said, it's because it's there. So you're going to argue with me that no other country went because there's nothing there? And the kicker is one of the heads of NASA. By the way, people go, cite your sources. NASA.gov. That's my source. It's right out of the snake's mouth. That we had the technology, but we destroyed it. And it's too painful to bring it back. That's Ukraine. That's Russia. You look at me in the eye and you argue the other side on that, and I'm just staring at a liar. I'm staring at someone. Listen, there's issues that I'm very, very against. And if I see in someone's eyes that they believe what they're saying and they have an argument, I can still be boys with them. Dave Smith used to be completely pro-choice, like almost up until birth. Before he had a child, he wasn't lying. He's a great guy. I'm totally pro-life. I could still respect him because I looked in his eyes and he's like, it violates the non-aggression principle. It's your body, blah, blah, blah. But most people don't have, and then he has a daughter and now realizes that Jesus Christ is his Jew Lord and Savior. But most people haven't even thought about a lot of this shit, and you see him scramble, right? So I'm going to play you another video right now about why sheep are dangerous. Why my unrelenting attempt to open people's eyes to stuff is about our survival. It's not about ego. It's not about viewers. It's not about money. It's not about me poking shit. This is Yuri. I don't want to mess up his last name. He's. If you never watch anything else on YouTube, look up Yuri Bezmenov. There's hours of him giving lectures and talks. He was a Russian KGB agent of deception. High IQ, talented, smart. He defected to America. And the story is fascinating about how when he was 6 years old, he had food that was from America. There was an eagle on it back when we were aligned with Stalin briefly. He said it was so good. And that always made it so that it never really sunk in that we were evil. He was like a hungry boy, eating that food with the eagle on it. He was like, I just remember that they couldn't have been that bad. And so Russia's hammering propaganda. America's the devil. It's the evil. It's, it's going to kill you all. They're going to gut your children and all the propaganda shit. They're going to burn your farms just for fun. They're going to laugh at you, and Yuri's like, he's in the KGB, but he always remembered that time when he was 6. And I have so many of those memories in my life. There's so many saving moments that I've had that make it so I can't hate a whole group of people because I met that one kind one, or that time someone helped me. And no one can accuse me of not being a snake killer, not sacrificing. I would die to protect my family, obviously, and my nation, and my friends. I'm a servant. I'm very connected to the reality of this world. So it's not weakness or cuckery. I'm not talking about empathy. I'm talking about compassion, and they're very different. Empathy is emotion, and it's very easy to manipulate. It's how all wizardry is. And that's why the concern troll is one of the most evil people on the planet, because they're tapping into